Welcome back, everyone, for today's video. Today I'm going to be going over another rated game of the week held here at Chess Zone between myself and Alexander Joseph. Now, Alexander Joseph is a kid in elementary school, around 8 or 9 years old, and he's already 1700, and that shows that he picked up chess very early on, probably around 4 or 5 years old if I had to guess. And the fact that he's already this highly rated means that he is on par to become, very strong very quickly. I'm pretty sure he could be around 2,000 strength by middle school even. So, and I was kind of intimidated when playing him because, he's a kid, and if I lost, I would be very humbled. So, I kind of had the mindset like I had to win and to keep my ego alive. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into the action and see how I fared against this psychologically. So, I begin the game with e4, and Alexander Joseph replies with e5. After knight f3, knight c6, d4, I play my usual Scotch game. We get a trade, and then I go bishop c4, which is the Scotch gambit. Here, Alexander Joseph plays the move knight f6, and I play e5, which is what I usually do. And here, Alexander Joseph plays d5, which is a correct move to counterattack the bishop in the center. I play bishop to b5, knight e4, knight takes d4. This is all theory. Bishop to d7, bishop takes c6, pawn takes. We were both blissing this out. We both didn't even use a minute of time here. We both knew this theory in our sleep. So after b takes c6, I go ahead and castle, and Alexander Joseph plays the move bishop to c5, which is, again, book move. Now, I know in these types of positions, I know f3 is a move here where you shove the knight back and then you push the f-pawn again to f4 to try to gain some kingside space. I didn't know if now was the right time to do it, so I didn't play it right away. I instead go c3 just to solidify my knight. Alexander Joseph castled, and I played the move f3 now. It's still perfectly acceptable, but it's no longer considered a book move. He played the move knight g5 here, and then as I said earlier, I played my move f4, and after the move knight to e4, I play knight to d2 to sort of challenge the knight in the center, and we get a trade on d2, and then Alexander Joseph plays the move bishop to b6 to prepare c5. And I play bishop to e3 here. That way I can sort of, block the diagonal and maybe just develop my bishop to a slightly more active square. Alexander did play c5 here. I played knight f3, and he played the move bishop to f5. And here I knew that I had a lot of possibilities on what I could do to improve my position. I can maybe bring the rook to e1. I could maybe play a move like h3 to prepare g4. So after maybe a minute or two of thought, I decided to go with queen to d2. And here, Alexander played the move rook to e8. And at this point, we already made quite a few moves, both of us. And I only used 7 minutes of time, and Alexander used only 4 minutes. So we're both playing this very quickly, because I guess we both know our Scotch game. I played the move rook on a to d1. That way, I'm just adding some pressure on the d5 pawn, but he just defended it with c6. Queen f2. And even though the engine evaluates this as an equal position, I thought I was better because my pawns are further advanced up the board. Like on e5, it's a very annoying pawn. I can maybe play h3 and g4 to create some sort of pawn storm on the king side. I have pressure on. I have a good queen and rook, potentially half-open file, and I just thought I had more space and better prospects. But apparently the engine says it's just a draw. So after queen f2, Alexander Joseph played queen e7. I play rook on f to e1. He brought his other rook to the center, and here I play the move h3 after a couple minutes of thought. I have 47 minutes here. And one move I was thinking about was to play a4. And a4, the idea is to play a5, kick the bishop away from defending the pawn, and then take on c5. But black can very quickly just stop that with a5 themselves, and you're basically haven't, accomplished anything, and you'd have to play h3 anyway. So I played h3 myself, and he played the move h6 after a very long think, I have to say. Earlier, he wasn't even spending a minute on the move. He was playing very quickly. And here, on move 17, he had 56 minutes. We're on move 21, and he spent 11 minutes. So over the course of those 4 moves, he had spent 11 minutes on time. So doing the math, that's around 3 minutes per move. Well, obviously not that, but I just want to illustrate that he spent a very long amount of time on this move. So after h6, I was kind of thinking about what to do next. I thought g4 was a good move, but because I'm trying to expand on the king side, right? But then I kind of didn't like this because black can plant the bishop on e4. You don't really have much of a king side attack. Like, you can't really push f5 here because black would just take and then just take here, and you've lost a pawn for nothing. So you can't really push forward just yet. And I was thinking about knight to d2 to try to hit the bishop. And I was calculating d4 in my head, which is apparently not a good move, but I thought it was. And then I was calculating this, takes, queen takes, and I okay, I basically thought I was winning a pawn here or something like that. But you can't take this pawn because black first needs to trade rooks and then play the move c4, and all of a sudden your queen is pinned due to the f-pawn being pushed. So I kind of saw all this in my head, and I didn't think a g4 was worth it. And I was correct, because I did not play g4 in this position. I instead played the move queen to g3, with some ideas like knight h4, maybe pushing f5 at this point, and sort of aligning with the king a little bit. He played bishop to e4 anyway, and I also am stuck here. I don't really know what to do. I was thinking a long time about f5 here, and it is the best move, or is one of the best moves. And the point is that I was calculating this, and then bishop takes h6, queen f8, and I don't know, I just didn't really see a way through from here. Also, I thought after f5, he would just take my knight. And, okay, I calculated this, queen f8, and I totally missed this. I was thinking I had to take the bishop back with the queen, or with the pawn, but even better is to play the move f6, and this is just disgusting. The point is that the queen is so badly placed that there's literally nothing you can do to stop the queen from being trapped. Like, if black doesn't do anything. Like, if black takes the rook here, the queen is just trapped. Like, sayonara. And if the rook moves to give the queen some space, you can just take this pawn, and after the queen moves, now you grab the bishop here. Or even better, you can just go here to threaten checkmate. Yeah, but this was a very disgusting line here. And I just assumed I had to take the bishop back to not lose material, but f6 was just a blind spot. I totally missed that. That would have been great if it happened in the game. But I instead played the move bishop to f2. Maybe I was thinking about playing bishop h4 at some point to reroute. And here Alexander Joseph played the move f5. Which to me looked like a bad move. The reason being is because, number one, the e5 pawn is now a protected passer. Number two, I just liked the fact that en passant, en passant's forced, right? En passant just looked good for me because I could hop my knight into e5. And while it's a good move, knight e5, Alexander Joseph did build some pressure on my f-pawn with rook to f8. And I was kind of stressed here, like, how do I deal with my f-pawn? Like, if bishop e3, then, I was worried about d4. Let's say you take first, and then I'd have to go, bishop c1 here. And this just looked unpleasant, because I'm defending my pawn with a lot of my pieces. So after the move rook f8, I play the move rook f1, and that dropped some of the advantage in his favor. And I had 29 minutes when he played this move, and after he took on f4, he had 33 minutes. So after a quick trade on f4, I go ahead and take on c6. I just thought it was a pawn trade. And after he played rook to e8 in this position, I played the move. This is a must move to not be lost here. The point is that my knight is pretty much stuck on c6. It can't retreat anywhere. And if I don't act soon, black is gonna like bring the rook to e6 and will eventually win my knight because my knight has no squares. So b4 here is a must. The reason being is that if I was calculating d4 here, and the point is that while he is attacking my knight, I would just take on c5, and I'd hit the bishop. And if the bishop takes, I would just take on d4 and, open up some space for my knight to retreat to, which wasn't available earlier. So yeah, b4 is a must here, and thankfully I played it. Here he played rook f6, and, I have to take on c5 to give my knight some space. Like if he, let's say takes here, I was going to take, and then rook takes. And if he moves the bishop somewhere, then I would just go knight d4, right? So that was the idea. He ended up playing rook takes c6, I take his bishop, he takes back, and I play the move bishop to d4 to defend my pawn on c3. Oh, also I should mention, on move 30, which is after he took the knight, he offered me a draw here, and I was thinking about accepting it because it's a pretty drawn position, let's be honest here. But, he's like half my age, right? And he might get tired. Plus, I had more time than him. So I risked it, and I said no. And as you'll see later, that was a good decision on my part. No spoiling. So after bishop d4, he played rook a8. I defend my pawn with rook f2. And here he played the move b5. And I here play the move rook to b2 to attack the pawn. He played rook b8, which was a very surprising mistake on his part. One thing that I don't get is why he didn't go here. Like rook a5. Sure, the rook may look awkward there, but there's not really any way I can exploit that. And I can't really make any progress. Also, he didn't have to defend his pawn or anything like that. He can play rook c4 here, and if I take his pawn, he takes my pawn, and it's just a pawn trade. So that pawn wasn't really attacked. He got kind of freaked out by that. And after this, he played the move rook to b8, and I immediately know that was a bad move because of the move a4, and he just pinned himself. The pawn is pinned to the rook, and there's no way to defend it. So I'm basically just winning a pawn here. And he spent a lot of time here because he knew that he messed up. But to his credit, he did put up the most resistance. He played the move b4 in this position, which may look like it just loses a pawn anyway. But after I take, right, he plays the move bishop to c2, and he's creating a lot of counterplay here. Is because he hits my rook and my pawn, so I'm forced to go rook a1 to defend. And now he plays the move rook to c4, and he's going to go for another fork on the b4 pawn and on the bishop. And I almost played the move bishop c5 here. But I saw that I just blunder the rook, blunder a piece. Okay, the engine says after rook c5, you go, rook a2. Like, you go rook on a to a2, and okay, I guess the idea is the two things are being attacked, but I don't think a human would play rook to a to a2. They would just see bishop c5 like, oh, I lose a piece. So, technically speaking, bishop c5 is not a horrible move, but I instead played the move a5, And I'm like, look, if you take my bishop on d4, I take your bishop on c2, and I have some passed pawns that you have to deal with. And yeah, I just like this part. So this actually did happen in the game. He played rook takes d4 here. Rook takes c2. I was calculating a6 if it was playable to try to sack the bishop and play with the pawns, but I didn't really see anything concrete, so I just decided to take back. And he has about like 7 or 8 minutes here. I have a time advantage. I have like 18 minutes, so he was playing pretty quickly. And after rook takes b4, I play king h2, and the reason I did that is because I thought it was winning, which I am, but not a whole lot. But I'm winning. The reason is that I played king h2 is because I was predicting he was going to offer a rook trade. If my king was still on g1, it would have been with check, but I didn't want it to be with check. And after rook here, I just take, he takes back, and then I just put the rook behind the pawn, and I'm just winning this endgame because the rook has to stay passive, and I can just bring my king up and win the game. And while his rook is going to be tied down to my pawn. So I didn't want it to be with check, and that was the observation I wanted to point out to you guys. So he played the move d4. I play a6. I thought I was winning. Apparently this is now a draw. He played rook to a8. I played rook to c7 to play rook to d7 at some point. And after rook b6, and the other point was to play a7 and have my pawn advance one more square and be sufficiently defended. He played the move d3 here. I played rook d7 like I intended to. And with 4 minutes, he played the move rook to b3 to defend his pawn. And over here, I kind of misstep. I play the move rook to a6. My idea is, let's say he plays a random move. My idea is that I wanted to go here. Well, actually, rook g6 even. But my idea was to go here and essentially force a rook trade, but then I guess he just goes king h7. So that idea was refuted. So yeah, rook d7, rook b3. Best move here is rook to e1. And you're trying to go bring the other rook to e7 where you can have the pigs on the 7th rank, and you're just dominating here. And if he plays d2 here, you go rook e7 here, and you're just way better. Same idea with rook c1. Now you might be wondering, why doesn't rook f1 work? It looks like you're going to the same destination. And the reason is that after the move d2, if you take his pawn, he just takes your pawn. If you try to go rook f7, he queens. And the difference here is because the king is in contact with the rook. So if you take his queen, he takes your rook. If the rook were on e1 or c1, the king is not in contact with the rook and it wouldn't capture it. So the way to draw, you just have to do perpetual check in this position. So yeah, because the king is in close proximity to the rook on f7, this is why it doesn't work. Just wanted to point that out. So I go rook a6, he goes king h7, I go rook a4, and my idea is to go rook g4 and attack that way. And here the engine says to go like rook b6, and that hangs the pawn, and the engine just says go here. But it's really unpleasant, let's be honest here, it's very unpleasant to give the pawn up like that, but the engine says okay, white has to be forced to defend their pawn on a7, and they can't improve their position, and white's tied down to defending their pawn, black has pressure on the pawn, so practically speaking, it should be a draw, but in human terms, you wouldn't want to give a pawn up like that. So rook b6. Sorry, we go back. Yeah. He played rook c3 here with a couple minutes on the clock. And I knew I was winning here after rook g4, attacking the g7 pawn. He tried to defend with rook g8, sorry. And I knew I was winning here. I played this move, rook takes g7 check, rook takes, king takes, and I promote my a pawn to a queen. And he played the move d2. He wasn't resigning yet. And my idea here is to play... if I can win his rook or fork his rook, then I'll be 100% in the clear. Because his rook's still on the board and he has a passed pawn, it's not super clear cut. So I play queen to d5, rook c2, and he is holding on by a thread here. When I say by a thread, I mean he's not dead lost. Like, he still has some hope in the position, as you'll see in a few moves. And I'm thinking, like, how do I fork the king and the rook? I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. Queen d7 check. If he steps on the light squares, for instance, then this is easy peasy. I would win the rook like this. And to Alexander Joseph's credit, he was finding all the best king moves to avoid an immediate fork. Like king f6, I scan again for any possible rook forks. If I don't see any, I go queen d4 check. King f7, queen d3. I didn't see another fork in the position, so I decided to attack the rook. And the rook has to stay on the second rank to defend the pawn. He played the move rook to b2 in this position. I go king g3. I'm like, I have to bring my king over. My queen can't babysit the pawn alone. He played rook a2. And it may look like here that there's a fork, but after, let's say, the king moves, your queen is overloaded. You can't take the rook because you would allow the d pawn to queen. So your queen has to worry about guarding the d1 square. Which is why the king should be helping, which is why I brought my king over. So I play the move queen h7 check. It's important here that you don't play the move king f3, because black has this brilliant move rook to a3, and I saw this, I almost played it. I saw he had this resource. The point is that you have to take the rook here, your queen's pinned, but then you would just let black promote, and this should be a draw. Similarly, you can't bring your king here either. That's even worse, because you walk right into a discovered check, and black is just completely winning here. So it's too early to bring the king, so I instead go queen h7 check, king e8, queen h8 check, king f7, queen d4, I just brought my queen over, rook a3 check, king f2, rook a2. Now I bring the king to e2. I can put my king on d1 if needed. My queen doesn't have to stay guarding the promotion square anymore. He went king g6. I play queen d6, king h7, queen e7, king h8. And I see in two moves that I can win the rook, starting with queen f8 check, king h7. And after queen f7 check, I finally get the fork on the king and the rook. And in this position, Alexander Joseph resigned the game. So this was a very intense game. He definitely had me on the gap, definitely had me against my seat, because this was not an easy game at all. Even though I won, he put up a lot of resistance, and for an 8 or 9-year-old, this is astonishing, especially for the fact that he can retain focus that long and put up quite a good fight. And if you look at the game accuracy here, I played with 90.8 accuracy, and he played with 86.4. So a very good game from both of us, and not really any obvious mistakes. In fact, I remember when I showed you b4, that was the only move for me not to be lost. So yeah, this was a very interesting and very dynamic game, and yeah, there's only this kid's only showing signs of improvement. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you guys for watching. If you like content like this, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button below. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and until next time, have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.